I'm Mike and welcome to the workshop, and this is going to be the first in a series of videos where I do some infrastructure changes to my workshop, because although it's almost perfect, okay, so a lot of it is pretty bad. But the first thing I want to tackle is this wall here, which you'll see in all my videos, and it looks good. So when I moved in here, this wasn't here. There was a low wall with a sheet of steel at the bottom because this was originally a cowshed. This is causing problems. So this is actually just a single sheet of water and boil-proof ply, and because it's facing the outside, I'm noticing a lot of damp is starting to come in. All my tools are on this side and it makes it a bit colder in the winter. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a new stud here, and then down at the bottom I'll insert a bit of b-roll here of what this looks like once the bench has gone out. This will hopefully create a temperature break and stop some of that moisture coming in, but also hopefully it'll keep me a bit warmer in the winter. So nothing else for it but to roll the intro. Now, I made this frame, so I'm relatively confident that that is square, but just in case, I'm checking the widths and the heights in a few places to make sure it's all the same, and checking that the corners are square. Then it's just a simple matter of making up a very basic square frame. I'm only screwing this together. This is first fixing carpentry, doesn't need to be fancy. And I'm pre-boring all my screw holes because we're close to the end here and we don't want to crack our material we're making our frame from. Next thing I did then was to cut the panel that's going at the back. I'll build my frame on this because my bench is not big enough. And as this is a summer and it's Ireland, I was doing this in between rain. You can see as I'm making this cut that it's starting to rain again. Mats. Why does it always have to be mats? I want to divide this in three, just because of the width of the insulation I have. And eventually I work it out. When installing this frame, I'm not screwing into the outside sheet. I'm only screwing into the frame that's on the inside. The reason for this is, if I screwed into that outside sheet, the screws will basically create a path through which dampness could come. And that's what we're trying to get rid of here. For my insulation here, I'm just using 40mm solid foam insulation. This is normally used in floors, but it's also used in walls and ceilings. It's very handy because you can just, as you can see here, cut it with a handsaw and just tight fit, it'll hold itself in, and it gives you great thermal resistance. It really helps keep a room warm. I followed the exact same process for the bottom, which actually needed more because it was just a sheet of galvanized out to the outside world. So this should really help stopping the damp traveling into the workshop. And then it's only a matter of carefully pushing back my bench and we can start work on the new tool wall. And that has all probably been very quick for you, hasn't been for me. Last thing I did here, which I didn't film, is I just put a little bit more of the chip along here to give myself a new shelf. So now let's start reworking and remaking all the fixtures and get this tool wall where I want it to be. So now I have a little bit of order on it, starting to look like tool wall shaped again. There are certain things I'm going to keep. I like the setup I have for my drills and my screws, and on this side my organizer for all my bits and bobs. I'll be lost without it, so that's staying there. But I want to add a few things. Firstly, I want to add a unit up above this for all my bits that I had there that was just thrown up there. So my longer drill bits, my masonry drill bits, fixings I don't use a lot like anchor fixings, steel nails, my spare consumables, sandpaper, biscuits, that kind of thing. And more importantly, my first aid kit. I'm going to be taking that out because it's a workshop. You'll be cutting yourself. So, I'll bring it out to the bench, show you what I'm doing for this, and then we'll close off the video with making a rack for our air nailers up in this corner. And what I'm showing you here, you could apply the exact same principle to drills, kind of adjust it yourself, and have yourself a little rack for your drills. So, let's start with this one first. I'll bring it out to the bench. So what I'm going to do here is an example of designing on the fly. What I'm going to do is I have several bits that I know are the right size for this. I'm going to make the box, the outer enclosure, and then I'm just going to put the stuff I want into it, organize it, see how I like it, and then do the internals. So we'll start with making the box. Now I have my bottom a little bit deeper than on my other sides. That's because I found that a lip was handy for hanging stuff, for putting a speaker on, that kind of thing. So the first thing I want to do is I'm just going to take a piece of scrap here and do two things. So this is the underside of the top. So I want to mark my width because obviously this is going to be a little bit deeper than the rest. And then we will just heel that up and mark the thickness of our sides. So for tin material, because I have it, I'm using the 12mm chip I have here, or sorry, 12mm OSB. So you always want to pre-bore and use a smaller diameter screw. So I'm going to use 3.5s here to put this together. I'm going to follow the same principle for here, here, and on the top. Mark it out, and we're going to drill right along the center line here. So I'll just mark the center line, and that's where I'll put in all my drill holes. So let's get started with that. So I have this marked out, and I've pre-drilled to let my screw go through. You all want to make sure to do that with man-made materials like chipboard, MDF, even plywood. You don't want to be trying to be cutting through then getting into the piece. You get a much tighter joint this way and you reduce the chance of splitting. Also, I tend to come up maybe 40 or 50mm from any edge to put in my screw. That again reduces the risk of splitting. So we'll just start here by screwing this together, and then we'll look at what we're going to do in terms of layout. And very slow and gentle when you're drilling into tin materials. Okay, so after a couple of cups of tea and thinking of how I want to do this, this is what I'm going to do. So my light stuff, my consumables will go on this top shelf. The heavy stuff, fixings, that kind of stuff, will go on the bottom, which will sit up on top of this. And then we're going to have one divider here, and to the side of that going to be all my boxes. And then I'm going to make a holder on the side for my first aid kit, so I can just go whoop, pull it down, and we're all good to go. So the first thing I need to do is screw these two together to make a T, and then I'll be able to put it in here. There it should be, and screw it through the top, bottom, and to the side. So I'm not going to have a back in this unit. In order to keep it square and fix it to the wall, I just cut these two little pieces at 45 degrees. What I'll do, I'll try to show you here, is I'm going to just put them in at the back and screw them in. That'll keep these corners nice and square, and then I'll be able to screw to that into my wall. First aid box holder is very simple. It's just a simple cradle made of a couple of L-shaped pieces and some strips in the back so I can move it if I want. First aid box slips in there. It's easy to pull in and out. All I need to do now is screw it onto the side of this, and we're good. Now onto the nailer rack. The basic idea of this is very simple. So you can see here, I've marked this out. All I'm going to do is, using my Fortuner bit, drill out a hole, cut it in, create slots, and then there, just going to slide in like that and stay holding. But we're going to make it a bit fancy. First, let's start with the boring bits. Get it? Because I'll be drilling a hole. I forgot to hit record here while I was cutting this, but all I did was use my jigsaw to cut along those lines up to the holes. So now it's time to assemble this, but I want to add a little bit of, well, I don't really want something big and square sitting up in that corner, so I just added this nice little curve to it, to the two sides. I've screwed them together. I'll just cut them all at once using the jigsaw. So I don't know if I sort of explained this well enough. So what you're doing with these is the slot is bigger than the handle, but not so large the main body falls through. So in this case I've gone with 35, which allows my nailer to go in, then sits on the body, can't go anywhere. But if you do the exact same thing with your drills or whatever, sorry, I'll turn it this way, just sits in there on the body, handily out of the way. So let's get this up on the wall. So that's this week's video. Thank you all for staying and watching and enjoying, and hopefully you picked up a few tips yourself. Make sure you join me next week when I finish up this, get all the tools in proper places. I'll show you how to make a few other fixtures for your tool wall, including a new plane setup and a new chisel rack. So, as always, thank you for staying to the end of the video. Make sure you like, share, subscribe and all that fun stuff. And absolutely do try this at home. Who filmed that entire clip in slow-mo? I did. So